This is NBC Nightly News, Tuesday, August 14th, with John Chancellor. Reported tonight by Garrick Utley.
Good evening. American bombs will stop falling on Cambodia at midnight tonight, Eastern Daylight Time. That's 11 a.m. Wednesday in Cambodia. And with the end of the bombing, 9 years of direct American military intervention in Indochina will also come to an end. In Cambodia today, there was little ground fighting reported, but people were wondering what will happen tomorrow and the days after, when government soldiers will no longer be able to call on American air support. Officially, government leaders there were speaking confidently today, saying that the end of the bombing will not be that significant and that they will fight on to victory. Phil Brady reports by satellite on the last day of the bombing.
There was no let-up in American bombing, even though it would end in less than a day. The skies were still full of U.S. fighters circling, diving, and dropping their 250-pound bombs on an enemy that may or may not be there. Communist forces themselves have pulled back from Phnom Penh. U.S. Embassy officials say the enemy withdrew because it was hurt, and hurt badly by the bombing. True or not, Communist forces are lying low, waiting now for the bombing to stop. And when it does stop, enemy troops will be free to do pretty much what they want. They may go for the capital again, or they may strangle it by cutting all the government's resupply routes. As for the bombing itself, U.S. officials hope it may have given the sagging Cambodian army a badly needed break. But that's a slim hope, and no one feels it's anything more than that. The bombing won't change the way things will go here because time is just about run out. Instead, what remains of the U.S. bombing is in fact little more than the last vestige of an American commitment to this country, a commitment that no longer has an effect or any real meaning. Phil Brady, NBC News, near Route 1 in Cambodia.
As we mentioned earlier, the end of the bombing tonight marks the end of direct American military involvement in Indochina, and it may mean the end of anti-war demonstrations in this country. Today at the White House, there was another such demonstration. The Reverend Daniel Berrigan and one of his brothers, Jerome, a teacher, were among a group of demonstrators arrested. Ray Sher reports.
The demonstrators took their protest to the White House one more time because they said they weren't sure the bombing of Cambodia will end tonight.
Ray, come on in. Step right on in.
They came in through the regular tourist line. White House police made no attempt to stop them, but locked the gate once they knelt to pray. That was it. 60 were arrested and dragged away. The charge was unlawful entry. Their lawyers said the arrests were illegal. He said unlawful entry was not a valid charge. Ray Sher, NBC News, Washington.
Who knows? That may have been the last anti-war demonstration of the Indochina War. There is other news today. Vice President Agnew says he will turn over his personal, financial, and income tax records to government investigators. And President Nixon has set the date for his announced speech on Watergate. It will be tomorrow night. This evening, we'll also see Senator Edward Kennedy with his nephew, who was involved in a serious automobile accident yesterday. And we'll have a report on Mayor Frank Rizzo of Philadelphia. He took a lie detector test and flunked it.
Sue? Sarah, I'm at the store and I'm confused. For the first time in years, I need a laxative. Sarah, there are dozens of them. Powdered laxatives, mineral oils, candy types. I'm confused.
Get the Phillips, Sue.
Why Phillips?
Phillips Milk of Magnesia is thorough and gentle. And of all those laxatives, Milk of Magnesia is the kind doctors recommend most often.
Doctors do?
Sure do.
May I ask what you're smoking, sir?
Oh, the new Dutch treats. You know, the little cigar from Dutch Masters.
Oh, how do you like them?
I like them. They're smooth. I don't even have to inhale them.
What did you smoke before?
But before the Dutch treats?
Yeah, before.
I smoked a, I know. I smoked a, don't tell me. I smoked a, I can't remember.
Dutch treats. Little cigars from Dutch Masters. They just might make you forget what you've been smoking.
Vice President Agnew says he is ready to turn over his personal, financial, and income tax records to the U.S. Attorney in Baltimore, and that he will talk to federal investigators. Agnew's records are wanted as part of an investigation into reported kickbacks and other irregularities in the awarding of government contracts in Maryland. And Mr. Agnew has been investigated in connection with that. Today, the Vice President said the U.S. Attorney can inspect his personal records, but not his vice presidential papers. That to avoid any constitutional conflict. Ron Nessen has more.
3 of Agnew's lawyers delivered the vice president's decision to U.S. Attorney George Bell, who is conducting the investigation, during a 1-hour meeting at the courthouse in Baltimore. Agnew's office says it is now up to Bell to decide when to come to Washington to examine the records and interview the vice president. Bell today subpoenaed more political records from Tilton Dobbin, who was Agnew's campaign treasurer in 1966 and 68 and is now Assistant Secretary of Commerce. Dobbin says he has no records from the campaigns. The investigators also obtained campaign records of Stanley Blair, the unsuccessful Republican candidate for governor of Maryland last year. Blair was Secretary of State of Maryland when Agnew was governor, later worked on the vice president's staff, and is now a federal judge. Blair convened the grand jury which is looking into the kickback charges. Meanwhile, a civil engineer in Maryland told NBC News that he was asked to contribute $1,000 to a so-called Executive Assembly Fund for Agnew in 1967, when Agnew was governor and was not running for any political office. The engineer said he refused to contribute because he did not think it was a legitimate campaign fund. The fund, which was collected by an Agnew friend, totaled at least $28,000. The contributors and expenditures never have been publicly accounted for. Ron Nessen, NBC News, Washington.
President Nixon will speak to the nation tomorrow night about Watergate, the first time that he has done that since spring. The president will speak at 9 p.m. tomorrow, Eastern Time, and NBC will carry it live on radio and television. NBC News has commissioned a nationwide poll on the president by the Oliver Quayle Organization. The poll was conducted at the end of July and the beginning of August when John Ehrlichman and H.R. Haldeman were both testifying before the Senate Watergate Committee. During last fall's presidential campaign, Mr. Nixon got this public rating for his handling of the White House job, but this month that support had dropped off markedly. In regard to Watergate itself, 63% of the more than 1,200 people asked said the president must bear the blame no matter who else was involved. On the question of the tapes of presidential conversations, relatively few people said that Mr. Nixon is right in not releasing them. Most supported the Senate committee's request for those tapes. Despite those feelings about how the president has handled Watergate, few people feel he should resign. And even fewer feel that he should be impeached. Those figures are just part of a wider poll that will be included in the NBC Reports program this evening. It's entitled, How Watergate Changed Government, and it begins at 10 p.m., 9 Central Time, and John Chancellor will report. 2 sons of the late Senator Robert Kennedy were injured in an automobile accident yesterday. David Kennedy will be in a Cape Cod hospital for about a week. His brother Joseph escaped with scratches. There were 7 young people in the car which was driven by Joseph and which overturned. 5 of the passengers were girls, and one of those is in serious condition. Betty Rowland has more on the story.
The accident happened on Nantucket Island off the coast of Massachusetts. Yesterday afternoon, Joseph Kennedy, who was 21, and his 17-year-old brother David and 5 girls were, as one eyewitness put it, just bouncing along in a Jeep having a good time. Police said the group headed down this road. Then, perhaps because of traffic, the car veered off onto a bypass, then back onto the main road. It swerved to avoid a car coming from the opposite direction. Then the Kennedy car skidded and overturned. Police said that everyone was thrown into the air. Patrolman Stephen Comatis was first on the scene.
Oh, when I arrived out there was bodies on both sides of the road. I didn't really know what to do. Just comfort them and wait for the ambulance to get there. I ran to the other side. One of the girls were really tossed in approximately about 5 feet in the brush.
Was she unconscious?
Semi-unconscious. She was talking to us, and she kept saying that she was hurting all over, and she had no feeling from her breast down. She didn't have no feeling at all.
All 7 were first rushed here to the Nantucket Hospital. Joseph Kennedy was released. He only had back scratches. Then the others were flown to the mainland, to Cape Cod Hospital in Hyannis. 3 of the young people remain in the hospital. A spokesman described both David Kennedy's and Mary Schlaff's conditions as good. But the condition of 18-year-old Pamela Kelly, whose back was broken, is very serious. There is a possibility that she might be paralyzed for life. Ethel Kennedy came to see the injured youngsters this morning. Her son Joseph was with her. Senator Kennedy spoke to reporters.
No, I think we're primarily concerned about the well-being, the welfare of the children here. They're getting excellent care and treatment here by the doctors at the hospital and others doctors who we've asked to come down, Dr. Fager, Dr. Torgerson, the Leahy Clinic, and Dr. Carney here. And others, so they're getting the very best in terms of medical treatment, and we're hopeful that they'll all be out and up very soon.
Joseph Kennedy was cited for negligent driving. The maximum penalty is a $200 fine or 2 years in jail and a suspension of one's driver's license. But the prosecutor said that all he expects to ask for is a $100 fine. Betty Rollin, NBC News.
Several Kent State students have told government investigators that they can identify the National Guardsman who fired the first shot in the campus shootings in 1970. That according to a congressional source. And that source also reports that the Justice Department now has what is believed to be the only movie film actually showing the shootings. 4 students were killed in those shootings, 9 more were wounded.
Doctors and dentists, $65.80.
Doctors and dentists.
Groceries, $193.20.
Groceries.
Allstate auto insurance, $21.
Auto insurance, $21.
But, Daddy, I thought you said you liked Allstate because they're trying to keep prices down.
Yeah.
Remember Ed Reimers on TV? Good driver rates and discounts, efficient claims service, fighting to keep drunk drivers off the road, working for tougher bumpers.
Okay. Why don't we do something to hold down uphills?
Look at all these lights.
Lights?
Lights!
Allstate. We know how you feel about bills today, especially insurance bills. That's why we're working as hard as we can to hold down your bill. Come see us. Put our good hands to work for you.
Say when, Dad?
Joey?
The second day of Phase 4 brought more requests from major corporations to raise prices. General Motors says it wants to raise prices on next year's cars about 2.5%. U.S. Steel wants to raise its prices about 5%. Both requests will not go into effect within 30 days unless the government says no. The price of wheat went above $5 a bushel today for the first time in American history. It happened on the Minneapolis Grain Exchange. The price of September futures rose to $5.07 a bushel before closing at $4.93 a bushel, 1 cent less than in Chicago. Stock prices dropped sharply today in light trading. The Dow Jones Industrial Average went down 12.5 points. On the New York Exchange, the average price of a share fell 34 cents. On the American Exchange, the average price of a share was off 10 cents. While the stock market's been going down, the dollar has been going up. It happened again today. On the European money markets, the dollar rose to a 6-week high, and the price of gold fell to a 3-month low. Wayne Henley and David Brooks were indicted for murder today in the Texas sex and torture killings. 27 bodies have been dug up so far. Before the indictments were handed down in Houston, a youth with a paper bag over his head to hide his identity testified before the grand jury. Rebecca Bell has details on today's developments.
At the county courthouse, the grand jury heard testimony from various police officers ushered in and out of the private hearing room before today's main witness was called. He arrived covering his face with a paper bag. The youth is believed to be 20-year-old Billy Ridinger, who escaped being tortured and killed because of the intervention of David Brooks, an admitted participant in the crimes. Houston's district attorney Carol Vance, refused to confirm the witness's identity, nor did he reveal the content of today's testimony. Vance did say there are no new suspects in the killings. One of the suspects, David Brooks, was questioned by police again today after being allowed to talk with his wife and father. While Brooks awaited transfer to the county jail, the father of a missing boy waited outside in a vain attempt to confront the youth. The father, William Glass of Houston, asked police to let him question the suspect because Brooks had named his 14-year-old son, Jimmy Glass, as one of the unidentified victims. The father said he just wanted to know and that he meant no harm to Brooks.
No vengeance. Strictly let God do it. Let God take his own vengeance. These boys have a conscience they have to go through. These boys have to meet God someday. Then someday I'll meet my son in heaven.
The father will try to talk with Brooks' attorney. Rebecca Bell, NBC News, Houston.
In Philadelphia, Republican Mayor Frank Rizzo has been charged with involvement in a political patronage deal. Rizzo swore it wasn't so and offered to take a lie detector test. He did, and the results were made public today, and Mayor Rizzo flunked. But Rizzo insists he told the truth, lie detector or no lie detector.
The charges against Rizzo concern this big redevelopment project and 9 others in Philadelphia. They're worth millions of dollars in city contracts to private architects, engineers, and construction firms. The city's Democratic chairman, Peter Camille, says last February Mayor Rizzo implied that Camille could name the contractors that would win these jobs if Camille would support Rizzo's choice for district attorney. Camille says the offer was made in a hotel washroom and that he turned it down. Mayor Rizzo denies he made any such offer. When Camille challenged Mayor Rizzo to take a lie detector test about all this, Mayor Rizzo promptly accepted. And the test was set up at this downtown Philadelphia hotel. The test was arranged by the Philadelphia Daily News. An independent polygraph expert asked Rizzo 10 questions about the washroom meeting. The results, according to the expert, Mayor Rizzo did not tell the truth on 6 of the questions. Within a few hours, Rizzo held a news conference.
Headline, Rizzo lied. I tell you that Rizzo did not lie. And we will go before any court of law in the land and stand and put our hand on the Bible. This is a cakewalk.
Would you call this your most serious political crisis?
No. So you'll know I'm not a politician, and it means nothing to me about political crisis.
How do you define politician if you're not a politician?
Politicians are crooks, generally.
Rizzo says he's no politician and certainly no liar, and he called for other polygraph experts to go back over the results of the test he took.
We'll go from there.
Robert Hager, NBC News, Philadelphia.
I'm Ewell Gibbons. I've spent years learning about natural foods. Did you know goldenrod makes an excellent tea? Natural ingredients are important to me. That's why Post Grape Nuts is part of my breakfast. This wholesome cereal is made from wheat and barley.
These natural ingredients are baked into crunchy nuggets and fortified with vitamins.
Its naturally sweet taste reminds me of wild hickory nuts.
I call Grape Nuts my back-to-nature cereal.
A germ-carrying invader has entered this room. But the Shell No Pest Strip will help protect these children. Because when used as directed on package, the No Pest Strip kills flies and mosquitoes in living rooms, bedrooms, family rooms up to 4 full months. And unlike most other household insecticides, you can hang or place No Pest Strips so they're well out of reach of children while they're working. Shell No Pest Strip.
A rescue rocket and spacecraft were rolled out to the launch pad at Cape Kennedy today, but officials in Houston insisted it was only a precaution. They made their strongest statements to date, expressing confidence the Skylab astronauts will make it home in their own command ship. George Lewis reports on some of the things the astronauts are doing in Skylab.
Mission Commander Alan Bean put on a special backpack for a short ride around the interior of the Skylab. It's the real-life version of the flying belt used by spacemen in the old Buck Rogers comic strip. The backpack is powered by high-pressure nitrogen gas. There are 14 thrusters which enable the astronaut to move in any direction. As Bean fired the thrusters, it sounded like a shooting gallery on the Skylab. The device is called an astronaut maneuvering unit. Bean's flight was a test to see how well it works. The astronauts had practiced with mock-ups of the backpack before they took off. Bean had no trouble with the unit as he maneuvered just inches away from the ring of equipment blockers.
First, advanced translation, stay away from the dome blocker.
Astronauts on future missions may use similar backpacks for working outside their spacecraft. On Skylab, all the flying and testing will be inside. Bean seemed delighted with the ride, although it's the slowest thing he's ever flown. The maximum speed of the backpack is about 1 mile an hour. George Lewis, NBC News, Houston.
There was a big fire and a big explosion this morning at a chemical plant in Lodi, New Jersey, a suburb of New York City. 5 people were critically injured and 2 others are missing, and the plant itself was very badly damaged. Smoke rose about 1,500 feet into the air. Hundreds of people in the surrounding area were evacuated. Volunteer fire companies from Lodi and 7 other communities rushed to the scene, along with ambulances. The blast and fire were at the Washine division of the Mallinckrodt Chemical Company. The plant manufactures food chemicals, industrial chemicals, and solvents. It has more than 150 employees. 7 of them were taken to a hospital. It's not known what caused the explosion and fire. The blaze was contained after about 3 hours. Firemen were afraid it would set off further blasts in some big chemical tanks nearby, but it didn't. John Scali, the United States ambassador to the United Nations, today denounced Israel for forcing down an Arab airplane in a hunt for Palestinian terrorist leaders. And Scali made clear the United States will support Security Council condemnation of the interception last Friday. Ralph Nader charged today that reckless construction of nuclear power plants is leading the country to what he called technological suicide through nuclear accidents. Nader told a Pennsylvania State Insurance Department hearing that the Atomic Energy Commission has covered up nuclear reactor problems for years. Angry workers seized a Chrysler plant in Detroit today and forced it to shut down indefinitely. It was the 3rd unauthorized work stoppage in 3 weeks. The workers are demanding improvements in health and safety conditions. The government's Council on Environmental Quality said today the nation can meet its energy demands without spoiling the environment. The council said this can be done by conserving energy and switching fuels for greater efficiency. Assistant Attorney General Henry Peterson says he got fan mail for the first time in his life after testifying before the Senate Watergate Committee last week. Peterson said all but 4 of the 150 letters he received were favorable. In his testimony, you recall, he expressed resentment over having the Watergate case taken away from him and turned over to a special prosecutor. And a New York State judge today ruled the state's obscenity law unconstitutional, and he refused to close 4 X-rated films in New York City. The judge said the films are offensive, all right, but he added that he has no way to determine the moral standards of New York City.
Stooping and bending. It's enough to give anyone a nagging backache, Alice.
Is that what's bothering you this morning? Try Doan's pills.
Doan's?
They sure help me.
Doan's pain-relieving action often brings welcome relief from nagging backache that may come on with overexertion or everyday stress and strain and lets you get a good night's sleep.
Backache better?
Woke up feeling great.
Try Doan's pills for relief of nagging backache.
I'm 34, and I know that I've got to start doing something to save my skin. I am not a cosmetic hound. I don't have pots and jars all over my dresser. When I'm through washing my face with Dove, I feel as though it hasn't dried my skin out the way Just Soap does. There must be cream in Dove, right?
Right. Dove is 1/4 cleansing cream. It simply can't dry your skin the way soap can.
Dove is a fantastic help.
If you like dogs, you're not going to like this. It's a report on how dogs, beagles, are used for scientific experiments by the Air Force. Lou Davis tells the rest of the story.
Thousands of beagles like these are killed every year in scientific experiments.
Researchers like to use these dogs because they say they're uniform in size, easy to handle, and friendly. One problem is that the beagles have a loud, high-pitched bark. So for most of the tests, their vocal cords are tied to prevent them from making noise during the experiments. These dogs have been debarked. These are some of the 250 beagles that the Air Force is using in a new series of experiments. Humane Society officials say they will eventually regain their bark if they live, but these won't. They'll be used here at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base to test prolonged exposure to fumes of burning fuels, exhaust gases, plastics, paints, and vapors from other toxic chemicals. And when the tests are over, the dogs will be put to sleep, and autopsies will be performed to learn the test results. The Montgomery County Humane Society has been trying to stop the tests because it feels there's already enough data available.
We are not opposed to all animal experimentation. We realize that there is a certain amount of this that must be done. But in this particular instance, we just feel that it's not necessary.
The Air Force has already begun conditioning the dogs for the experiments. They'll spend several weeks getting used to the chambers before the fumes are introduced. Then they'll be exposed to the toxic vapors for several months. Air Force officials emphasize the beagles are not being subjected to chemical or biological warfare agents.
The animals are exposed to an environment, hopefully, that's exactly the environment that you or I would be exposed in if we were the industrial worker involved with the material, or the public living around the community where a particular fuel supply is, etc.
Will these animals end up dying?
Well, in order they won't die during the exposures themselves. And so, yes, following the experiments, certainly the animals are looked at after they have been put to sleep. And then the various systems are looked at very carefully to be absolutely sure there are no effects.
Several federal officials, including some area congressmen, have expressed concern over the experiments, and the Humane Society is hoping it can get them stopped. But meanwhile, the Air Force is going ahead with plans to begin what it calls these vital tests. Lou Davis, NBC News, at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
And that's the news on this Tuesday evening. I'm Garrick Utley. Good night for NBC News.
We caught up on a lot of things, but it's getting late. We won't have any trouble falling asleep tonight.
When I first moved to the city, I sometimes had trouble falling asleep. And I'd remember Mama telling Dad, George, it's not worth losing sleep over.
That's right.
Take Somanex. It'll help make you drowsy so you can get to sleep.
Well, Somanex does help you get to sleep, right?
Right, Mama.
I learned that even without moving to the city.
Somanex. It helps take the trouble out of falling asleep.
President Nixon is scheduled to address the nation tomorrow night about Watergate. NBC News will provide complete live coverage of the president's statement, beginning at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock Central, 7 Mountain, and 6 o'clock Pacific time, tomorrow night on most of these NBC stations.
WSM-TV in Nashville.
I clean without buckets.
You don't use a bucket?
I just use Fantastic. It's quick and it's strong. Tough grease, grime, and gook are no match for its power. You spray it, you wipe it,
and dirt is gone.
Cleaning's a tough job, so be sure your cleaner's more than tough. Be sure it's Fantastic.
And dirt is gone.
Fantastic Spray Cleaner. It's more than tough. It's fantastic. From Texsize.
That's not helping my headache.
Tell your headache to take a powder.
A BC powder. BC is a